An entire world is ready
for you to start your career teaching the path to wellness.
Mastering the science of mindfulness.
And the art of coaching.
To help clients achieve mental, emotional, and physical betterment of life.
Through movement,
nutrition,
recovery, and regeneration.
Because impacting one person impacts a family.
Impacting a family impacts a community.
And impacting a community impacts the world.
Become an NASM certified wellness coach.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Random Fit. I am Wendy Batts, and I'm here with my friend and colleague, whatever you are, Ken Miller. Ken, how are you today?
I'm well, Wendy. How are you doing?
I am well. I'm excited about today because I learned a ton, and I actually learned a ton from you about this topic because I was not very good at it. I was not informed to what we're talking about, which for those of you guys joining us, we are going to talk about earthing, grounding ourselves to the earth. And are you down to earth, Ken?
Yeah.
I know you are, but I'm not.
I'm always down to earth. So, you know, the funny thing about doing the reading, and I know you did your share of reading as well, Wendy, but I couldn't help think about, you know, when I was growing up and how much time as a family we spent going to the beach, going to the park, going to the lake. And again, when we talk about earthing or grounding, as what it's called sometimes, it's about just having a direct contact with ground, soil, sand, beach, just getting the body in touch with the ground. So when I was doing my reading, and I don't know what this made you think about, but it's like, how much time do I spend touching the ground now? And it's almost nil, you know, because when we're talking about wearing shoes these days, and when you're running, you're wearing shoes or you're in the gym. But growing up, we would go to the park, we would go to the lake, and we were barefoot a lot of the times, right? And growing up in San Diego or Southern California, we'd wear flip-flops all day long. And, you know, cool thing about flip-flops, they come off really easy. So being able to run through the sand, get sand between your toes, all that good stuff. We were, you know, me and my brothers, we were in touch with the ground a lot. I just remember one time at the lake, there's this little hill we would just roll, you know, you just lay on your side and you just roll, tumble.
Oh, yes.
End over end. Down the hill. We do that all day long, but now it's just non-existent. I mean, you have time, you have work, you have kids, you have to do all this stuff, but you know, I don't know, what does earthing mean to you, Wendy, after all that you've read up on?
Well, it's crazy because again, I'm like you. I thought about myself as a kid, and I always ran around barefoot. My dad he was a Little League coach. So I would run around in my diaper and a hat on backwards and try to run after the kids that were out on the field. No shoes, just totally like running and doing my thing. And, you know, I thought back of when was the last time, not that I ran around in just a diaper with a hat on backwards, but mainly like, when was the last time that I took my shoes off and walked outside? And Ken, in all reality, like I'm very type A. My husband's very type A. Like we take our shoes off as soon as we come into the house. Right. Because we think about where our shoes have been, but I don't walk around outside without my shoes on because then my feet will get dirty, which is totally backwards of how I used to be and then where I am today. And then also thinking too, when I went through massage therapy, which I mean, you're also a massage therapist as well. They tell you when you're working with your clients, in order to connect with your clients and connect with the earth and transfer positive energy, to take your shoes off, which I still do not do.
Yeah. Well, I just remember, you know, talking about massage school, we had one of our instructors that would teach barefoot. She taught barefoot. Yeah. Just so she can get more grounded, if you will. But yeah, I mean, it just made me realize, okay, well, yeah, that is something. I mean, again, when you're a kid, you're running around in your diaper, running around on the grass. Yeah. You don't, I mean, as a kid, you just don't feel bad ever, right? You're not inflamed. You're not stressed. You're not trying to recover from a workout. But these days, it's something that we need to get back to. We'll go over some of the benefits when it comes to earthing or grounding. But if there's any time that we do need it, it is today. So I think, to go into the explanation of the benefits of earthing or grounding, we need to talk about the history, which the history doesn't go back all that far when you think about formally how it's come about into society and how it's actually become a pretty big industry when it comes to the health and wellness side of recovery and what grounding and earthing do. So one of the research, in the research of where it came from, you can't help but come across the name Clint Ober, who started off his career and spent a good part of what he did for a living was within the cable and television industry. So with that, you're talking about a lot of the structures and infrastructure you need to have a good cable connection without the snow and the what they call artifact when it comes to having a clear connection, which required grounding, right? So in his history, and he's got there's a movie out that you can watch for free on YouTube. I think it's called Earthing the Movie. Go figure. And he's got a book, Earthing the Book. So it's just look up the word earthing and you're gonna find a movie and you're gonna find a book if you want to research more on it. But basically, he spent a big part of his career in the cable industry, and that'll come into effect a little bit later into the story, which I'll try to keep short. He got sick, basically sold all his things and decided to, okay, I need to get my life in order. Wound up in Sedona, and in looking at, having a, clear television or cable hookup, he needed to ground his equipment, his computer, his TV, and all of that stuff. But one of the things he also noticed is that when he saw this tourist bus, he saw these people in these white sneakers, and he just thought to himself, okay, well, these people are pretty insulated from the ground. Now, also growing up on a farm in Montana, he had a different perspective of our relationship with the earth, where he grew up where his friends were from the nearby Indian reservation. So having that perspective of, our relationship with the earth and Mother Earth and how the earth takes care of us, he then started to do some research on the amount of electromagnetic frequency that we are exposed to. And then carrying a voltmeter around, he noticed that we were exposed to quite a bit of electricity just in the air where, throughout his hotel room. But the voltmeter basically read 0 when he was close to his computer and his refrigerator, which when you talk about those appliances are grounded, right? So again, listening to us here, both Wendy Batts, myself, Ken Miller here on Random Fit, we're talking about earthing. And right now we're just going into the history of how modern day earthing came to be with Clint Ober. Well, doing some research, didn't find anything on, okay, why that is as far as, the amount of electromagnetic frequency that's around us, but also how does that affect the body? So looking at, how do we find this research? Went to UCLA. They basically laughed him off campus. Tried to do more research on things out there, nothing. So he had to do his own research to where he found 60 people to where he could ground their beds. Again, after doing this himself, grounding their beds, meaning he reduced the conductivity and connected their beds basically through a ground to outside, and the responses were amazing. They slept better, they felt better. Arthritic conditions that some of the subjects may have experienced coming into this study, this informal study, everybody had some marked improvement in how they felt overall. And then, of course, now he got, I think it was Dr. Sokol, who was a retired anesthesiologist out of Southern California, who joined with him and started to do more research on the effects of grounding and its effects on the body. So that's where I think today, based on what I was able to see online, there's about 22 research articles about grounding and its effect on the body. So the history from where it, and this is only since 1999, 1998. So not too long ago that they started to do the research and been able to find some application for it on the body and how it affects the body.
So you're saying basically earthing started with the cable guy, and then here we are today.
Yes, Jim Carrey, he was paying a wellness visit on top of trying to give you free cable channels.
That's right. And those of you guys that are just joining Random Fit, my name is Wendy Batts, and I'm here with Ken Miller, and we're talking about earthing. And I think Ken did an amazing job talking about Clint Ober, who is actually the guy that started all the research. And as Ken mentioned, when you're thinking about him actually realizing the disconnect between the bus in the white shoes, and that he's like, you know what, I wonder what happens if I just ground my bed to a rod and stick it out the window to see how I sleep. I mean, that's something that I probably wouldn't have thought about, but the fact that he had his best sleep ever, and then now you look, like, to your point, all the different research that's out there. If you think about Mother Earth, we also want to think with modern day, we will say, in recent decades, that chronic illnesses and immune disorders and inflammatory diseases and all this stuff happens because of environmental factors. And so now we're saying, wait a minute, if you actually put yourself on the earth, it can actually help with all of that, which I found fascinating. I don't know if you did, but I found fascinating because, I don't walk around, I don't connect with the earth in that fashion, even though now, after doing the research, I need to change my ways.
We need to do something. We need to do something.
I need to do a lot of stuff. Okay.
Now, in one of the journals, they did write about a study that was done in Germany in 1920. And one of the things that they noted there was that there was an improvement of sleep. Now, just for clarification, when Clint, Mr. Ober, grounded his bed and, just, put a little, I think it was a copper wire that he strung out of his window and into the ground, he wasn't looking for the effects of how this was going to, change his sleeping pattern. He just, one of the things that he says is that he just woke up the next day, where usually he doesn't sleep well. And he just woke up the next day, however many hours later, thinking, man, it's been a long time since I've slept that well or that long. So it's the effects on sleep was actually an accident, or something that he came upon. But one of the journal articles that they showed that they actually did a research study in 1920, and the effect was one of the results was improvement of sleep. But for some reason, it never caught on to the mainstream society, as far as, okay, well, let's ground our beds, let's sleep on the ground or someplace to where we can have a direct connection, and not have all this electromagnetic activity or electrical activity, if you will, just flying all over the place, and allow ourselves to be connected to Earth and then sleep better from there. For some reason, it didn't catch on in 1920. So can you imagine? I mean, you're talking about a 70-year difference, 80-year difference with what Clint Ober discovered and what was originally found out in 1920. But again, I think the study pretty much stopped there, and nobody ever went to pursue it as far as, okay, hey, maybe this is something that can change society.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, to your point, when you start really diving deep and looking into it, I know that there was talk about, people that were sick and, trying to see if this earthing was a real thing. I think you actually told me the story too about, like, people digging holes and trying to sleep to connect themselves to try to feel better, and that they noticed such a difference in how people were feeling, just overall. And if you look at, the benefits and thinking about the Earth's natural electric charge and how it stabilizes the body altogether, I mean, when you really start digging deep, you're going to see that it can help, energy, your sleep, generates greater well-being, chronic stress, inflammation, pain, arthritis. And you're like, man, there's so many benefits. I don't see myself going to dig a hole and laying down in it, at night, because I'm always so cold and I like my bed. But I also, when you think about it too, when I first started reading it, I'm like, man, this guy, he's really thinking it through. And with him being a cable guy, he knows the right thing to do. I would have probably connected a wrong wire and electrocuted myself trying to do this, something like that on my own.
Yeah.
By not connecting the right type of wire to my bed. But so we're not saying to do this unless you know what you're doing. But then that kind of brings us into where we are today. And I know Ken bought a kit after doing this, y'all.
Wow.
Legit bought a kit because he wants to become one with the earth. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the kit that you purchased?
Well, let's just say that I need help, right?
In so many ways.
Yeah, I've I'm getting a little older, a little long in the tooth. So being able to find opportunities, or in this case, is just create opportunities to help, with the recovery process. So one of the previous podcasts we recorded, one is, was about recovery, right? But this is one of those concepts that you can apply, and it's really easy when it comes to how can we implement the concept of grounding or earthing in our day-to-day. So there's again, go to Amazon, and there's just a ton of stuff out there as far as how they label these tools to help with grounding or earthing, right? There's earthing mats. Basically, you're gonna just plug it in. And the way I looked at the descriptions of these different pieces of equipment, they vary, right? So as I said, there's a mat, and you're going to plug it into the wall where, as you plug it in, there's typically a ground through your outlet. So that's how you are grounding. So it's not like these mats are electrical, right? That doesn't need to be turned on or anything, but it's more from the aspect of being ground dead, right? So they have grounding mats, they have sheets, or bed covers that you'll lay on. So you'll put it on the bed, and then you'll put your bed sheet on there. Pillowcases. There's even these patches that you'll connect directly onto your skin, right? So that you can be grounded. So it's connected to your skin, maybe your hand or your palm or your arm, and then you are plugged in, again, grounded. And you only need to do that, 15, 20 minutes. I've also read some of the journals where grounding for about 30 minutes a day should be enough. So there's a lot of opportunity to ground yourself if you can't do the free thing, which is take off your shoes and walk outside, right? And that doesn't count asphalt, right? And depending on what you're reading, I saw that cement was okay, but I also read that cement was not okay. As you can get more onto natural dirt and grass and foliage and things like that, those are the better ways to be in contact directly. So, and don't do what I just did, where it's my yard is a little damp, and I went outside and I came back in and my feet were just
frozen.
Not good.
They were muddy, they were dirty.
Yeah,
and
were
again,
dirty.
that's what I was saying when we're talking about being dirty. I've got to get over that. But there are shoes. So there are some shoes that you can buy that, I mean, we've talked about moccasins, or there's some earthing type shoes. So if you don't want to be just barefoot, where you're still, connecting to the ground, and it really is supposed to do so many amazing things to your body. But just even being outside, disconnect from your computer and your phone. And, we've talked about the importance of just doing some, just self-care, just put everything away and become one with yourself. And if you're walking around and, once you started talking about this, the movie that pops up, and those of you guys that are around my age, which we don't really need to talk about, but one of the movies that pops up is the Julia Roberts and Richard Gere movie, Pretty Woman. And, she literally teaches him to take off his socks and his shoes and to walk around. And he actually did this without her after going through and learning more about it. And he made some amazing decisions that were uncharacteristic for himself. And so I can easily relate, because I loved that movie. And I'm like, you know what? This was something that's been going on, and I never really thought about it. I've never personally done it like that, where it was intended for me to connect to the earth. However, once going through all of this information, I was like, you know what? Maybe that will help me make some amazing decisions in my life too. Maybe that's what I was missing. That's it. Yay!
Yeah. And at that point in the movie, that's when Richard Gere realizes how much he loved Julia Roberts, I think.
Well, that, and he also, when he, decided not to buy a business, he decided to partner with a business and not tear it apart like he had done. So yes. And those of you guys that are joining Ken Miller and I on Random Fit, we're talking about, are you down with the earth? And we just used the pretty woman analogy of him walking around before making some important business decisions. So I don't know, Ken. I mean, I think when you're looking at all the benefits and you think about these free radicals and what the earth is able to provide, I mean, yes, there are some negative comments about things that are going on in the earth and, and the environment and stuff. But if you really think about yourself, your body, you want to actually try to experience yourself. Like you said, it's 30 plus minutes a day. And even if you sit outside and read a book or do anything that you can just to even be outside, I think you're going to end up seeing there is a huge benefit to that.
Yeah, and I think you brought up a point that I forgot to talk about or mention. It's like when we talk about free radicals, again, where do free radicals come from? It's stress, exercise. And basically, these are the byproducts, naturally produced when it comes to our daily activities. So the more you exercise, the more free radicals you have. The more bad food you have, the more free radicals. So these are stressors to the body, and the more free radicals that leads to, more damage within your body, which is the case for having some kind of antioxidants. So if you're taking a multivitamin, a lot of times, the antioxidants are going to be in there, if not as a separate supplement themselves. Again, not saying that as a suggestion to take supplements, but just know that a lot of times the purpose for taking an antioxidant is to address free radicals that are in your body, because they're trying to look for there's this free electron that's floating around and it's just looking to pair. Well, what does earthing do? Well, getting your body directly in contact, whether you like to lay on the grass or just take off your shoes like what we're talking about and just stand there, you're actually taking on these electrons from the earth, and they're going to bind with those free radicals that are floating around the body. And that's where the health benefits come into play, because it's just another source, another form of electrons to bind with those free radicals. So this is how, as far as the correlation between touching the earth and being in contact with the earth and how it actually benefits the body, you're actually addressing the free radical damage by taking on these electrons. And doing this on a regular basis, as we're talking about, Wendy, is just one way just to replenish and recharge your batteries, if you will. So the more time you have in touch with the earth is more opportunity for you to gain these electrons. So if you're doing it daily, like we said, 30 minutes, I think one of the things that comes up in those interviews is that, and I didn't know this, Wendy, and tell me if you knew this, but it takes about 22 minutes for your for a cell of a blood cell to actually make one full cycle throughout the body. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
To circulate through the body.
Just full of information today.
Man, I was really,
you were really into
a rabbit hole.
I mean, I read a few things and I was talking to Ken and he's like, I'm listening to this podcast. It's amazing. Or I'm watching the Earthing movie. Or did you know there was a book? Or I just bought a kit. I'm like, who are you? Who are you?
I told you I need help. I need help, Wendy.
Well, apparently I need a lot of help as well. But I think, to your point, when you're thinking about all the positives and the benefit too, we're talking about, really trying to think about longevity and, trying to preserve your body, which is your temple. And so in order to do so, you should think about what do you have that's free. Time obviously is always an issue, but if you make the time and you go outside and you spend time with the earth, looking at all of the positive benefits and thanking Mr. Ober for bringing it to the forefront, I think, it's definitely something that I know personally I want to look into and do more of. And maybe it's something I do with my family. We just pull the Richard Gere, take off our shoes and socks and walk around and talk about life and where we want to be.
Julia Roberts? Is that There you
Well, not really her, but
go.
but she's decided to go back and get her education.
That's right.
She's
That's right.
changing her ways.
That's right. That's right. And
Well, this was fun, Ken. I really enjoyed talking about earthing, and was excited that you brought this topic up because I truly did learn a lot.
and the thing is, as you go through all this, it's easy to get caught up in the, I guess, all the minutia and the science. But when we're talking about things like stress and pain and inflammation, as you mentioned, and heart rate variability has been shown to improve cardiovascular disease, all these things that, it's just overcoming society. This is a free, right? An easy way to address stress and to give something the body needs for nothing. You just need time. And it can be an investment if you want to make if you want to make the investment that I did on trying to get these things in there. But this was a good topic as far as what it takes to really enjoy life through better wellness and health. So thanks, Wendy, for going down this journey with me.
Absolutely.
So yeah, awesome. So if you guys liked what you had to hear today regarding earthing, there's a lot of resources out there. I encourage you to do the research on your own and find a way that works best for you. But nothing's better than just taking off your shoes and walking on grass anyway. So thank you for spending your time with us on this episode of Random Fit and talking about earthing today. So like, follow, subscribe, and comment, and let us know if there's anything else you'd like to hear from us, both Wendy Batts and I here on Random Fit. So until next time, take care and be well.